Hello again. I just had a wonderful conversation with a Facebook friend, and we were talking about ADHD and memory issues, and it reminded me of all those kind of funny, quirky things that we do in order to protect ourselves from having to step into our places of challenge. And one in particular is with working memory. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, working memory is that short-term part of our memory that allows us to remember instructions long enough to then execute and accomplish those instructions. But we have to remember three things in order for working memory to work. The instructions we were given, hold them in our mind while we're executing, and also retrieving our past experience with this. And we're combining those three things together. Those kids that don't learn from their mistakes have a hard time retrieving their past knowledge of what they learned before because their working memory sucks, okay? But that's just to give you some context. Here's the funny stuff. We were talking about all the things that we do because of our scatterbrained, our difficulty remembering things. For many of us, our attention span or our memory is so short that we can say something and we'll forget what we said. I mean, when I'm presenting, I get into streams of consciousness and I'm saying things to the audience and somebody will say, could you repeat that last thing you said? And I'll be perfectly honest with them. Most of the time I say, honestly, I can't remember what I just said. And I'll go to the audience and say, do you remember what I just said? And they'll say, yeah, you said this, this, and this. Thank you so much. And I have them, thank each other. Because once it's out, it's gone. And one way this shows up a lot is when you're talking to somebody on the phone. Now, a lot of people with working memory issues hate talking on the phone. And it's not because it's social phobia. It's because they have a hard time remembering everything they want to say long enough to say it. So they'll think about it in their head. And then they have to go and listen to the person they're talking to. But now they have to remember what this person just said. So in exchange for that, they forgot what they were going to say. Make sense? So they will avoid talking on the phone entirely. Now, I talk on the phone a lot, and I'm okay with it because I do a lot of listening. And if I need to say something to the person I'm talking to, I make myself a note. So I can keep track of those little bubbles that pop in there that I need to say to the person. But there are some folks that won't do it. They have a smartphone that they don't know it has a phone feature because all they want to do is text because they can't remember what it is they want to say. Or they remember pieces of what they want to say, and they want to reserve the right to go back later when they remember the rest of it and type it in. Again, that's a working memory issue. And scattering. But here's the funny thing. We were talking about restaurants and who do we order takeout from. And this happens in my house too. There's always kind of an argument or some tension over who is going to make the call. Who is going to call in the order. Nobody wants to call in the order because you have to remember it long enough to recite it to the person on the other side of the phone. And if they read it back to you, you have to be able to hear it and process it long enough and remember the whole list at the same time to know whether they got it right. If you got working memory issues, that's hard. So whenever whenever my wife sends me out to Portillo's or something like that with a lengthy list, she better write it down because I'm reading that sucker off. I'm not going to try and remember it one bit. And this is one of the parts that we really chuckled about. In my case, if I'm going to place the order, they better have online ordering or an app, or they're not getting my business. Nothing against them, but that's just me protecting my working memory deficit. I've got to have some kind of accommodation to work around it. If I'm on the web, I can look at everything. I don't have to remember their menu. I don't have to remember what I already ordered because I can look in the checkout cart. If I have an app, same thing. Just type it all in, tells me what I've already ordered, tells me the total. I can hit order or pay or whatever, and it comes to my door, and I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to remember a darn thing. So, just wanted to share those stories with you because I suspect that this is a little bit more relatable than you realized. So, if you know anybody that's like this, share it with them and tell them that they're not alone. There are many people that have this challenge. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's an indication of ADHD because this is one executive function. There could be a variety of reasons. Sleep apnea, insomnia is one of the things that can really impact working memory. Anxiety is a big gremlin when it comes to affecting your working memory. So it doesn't necessarily mean ADHD. It could be a number of things. But at the very least, hopefully, if you have these difficulties, you now understand a little bit more of why you have them. So this is Brian King again. Thanks for having fun with me. We'll talk again soon.